He claimed my tree was dropping too many leaves on his lawn. I said I'd clean it. That night, he cut it down, no warning, no apology. I found the trunk in pieces, pushed onto my side. I didn't yell. I just checked the code book he forgot to read, and what I filed next will force him to tear down something far more valuable. I've been living in Lakewood, Ohio for over 17 years now. It's an old suburb, not flashy, but quiet and steady. People keep their lawns decent, paint their shutters once in a while, and mostly mind their own business. That's what I liked about it. Everyone respected the line between neighborly and nosy. My house isn't big. It's just me since my wife passed. But I take care of it. Keep the siding clean, fix the gutters, mow the lawn every Sunday. There's this maple tree in my backyard, right near the property line. Big old thing, probably been standing there 50 or 60 years. It's always dropped a ton of leaves in the fall. I don't mind. I rake, I bag, I've got a system. It's peaceful work. Then Rick moved in next door. He bought the place in early spring. Divorced guy in his 40s. Drives a spotless black Ram, wears those wraparound sunglasses even when it's cloudy. From day one, I could tell he was one of those high-maintenance lawn guys. You know the type, spends more time edging than mowing, probably trims his bushes with a laser level. We didn't talk much at first. Just the usual nod when taking out the trash. But when the leaves started falling in late October, things changed. One Saturday morning, I was raking when I noticed him standing on his side of the yard, arms crossed, just staring at the ground. "Your tree's dumping a lot over here," he said, without looking at me. I stood up straight, leaning on the rake. "Yeah, I know. I always clean them up. Takes a few rounds, but I get it done." He didn't say anything else. Just turned and went back inside. I figured that was the end of it. It wasn't. The next morning, Sunday, I woke up around 6:30. I always do. I like that early quiet. I made coffee, put on my jacket, and went out to check the yard. Something felt off right away. I could smell sawdust. Not like a little bit either, fresh, thick, strong. Then I saw it. The tree. Or what was left of it. The trunk was gone. Chopped into large, rough pieces and shoved across the line onto my lawn. Branches, too. Broken, messy, some still with leaves on them. The stump looked raw. Not a clean cut, either, like someone with no clue just went at it with a chainsaw. I walked over and stared at it. Didn't touch it. Rick's truck wasn't in his driveway. I didn't knock. Didn't yell or call the cops. I went back inside, grabbed my coffee, and sat down at the kitchen table. My hands were shaking, not from anger exactly, just disbelief. Who does that? Who cuts down someone else's tree in the middle of the night and dumps it back on their lawn? I sat there for an hour, trying to figure out what to do. Then I remembered something. Back in July, Rick had this big wooden deck built off the back of his house. It went up fast, took maybe 4 days. No permits posted. At the time, I thought it was odd, but not my business. Now it was my business. I pulled out the city code book I kept in the filing drawer. Lakewood's pretty strict about setbacks and variances, especially in residential areas with older lots. I measured, then measured again. Rick's deck was 3 inches over the setback line into the restricted zone. He hadn't pulled a permit. I checked. That's when I knew what I was going to do. I didn't file anything right away. I waited. First, I took pictures. Lots of them. The stump, the saw marks, the pieces of my tree dumped on my grass. I took photos of his deck too, from multiple angles, with a tape measure for scale. I wanted it clean, undeniable. Then I called the city's building and housing department and asked a few hypothetical questions, just to make sure I was right. They confirmed everything. No permit. Violation of the rear setback by exactly 36 inches. That might not sound like a lot, but in Lakewood, that's enough to force a full teardown. I filed the complaint anonymously. I didn't want to give him the satisfaction of knowing where it came from, at least not yet. Within a week, a city inspector showed up. I saw him walk through Rick's yard with a clipboard and a camera. Rick was home, too. Came outside with his arms up, looking confused and irritated. He followed the inspector around like a lost dog. That same evening, I was out front, sweeping the sidewalk, when Rick walked over. First time he'd come to me since the leaf comment. "You file a complaint about my deck?" he asked, no small talk. I didn't even look up from my broom. Why would I do that? He stared for a few seconds, then scoffed. "Real funny. They're saying I might have to tear the whole thing down."
"Wow," I said.
"That's rough." He stood there a minute longer. "It's not even over your property line." "No," I said. "But it's over the line the city drew. Big difference." He didn't respond, just turned and walked back to his house. A few days later, I got a letter in the mail, certified, from his lawyer. It was a cease and desist about harassment and interference with private property. I laughed, tossed it in the trash. If he wanted to go legal, fine. I still had every photo, every email, every dated city record. I even had screenshots of his posts on the neighborhood Facebook group bragging about building the deck himself without dealing with red tape. The city ruled against him. He was given 30 days to either apply for a zoning variance or remove the deck. A variance meant a public hearing. Neighbors could object. And I did. At the hearing, I stood up and calmly told the board that I had no issue with his deck originally. But after what happened with the tree, and the fact that he never even apologized, it was clear he didn't respect boundaries. That struck a chord. They denied his request. Rick has 30 days left to tear it all down. I thought that would be it. He'd tear the thing down, maybe stew in silence for a while, and we'd go back to ignoring each other. But Rick wasn't done. And apparently, neither was his pride. 2 weeks after the variance was denied, I came home from grocery shopping to find a "for sale by owner" sign in his front yard. Handwritten. Sloppy. Like he'd done it in a rush. The deck was still standing, untouched. But now there was a giant blue tarp over part of it. Maybe to cover where he'd started tearing it down and realized he was in over his head. I figured he was cutting his losses. But then I noticed something else. Small trucks had been coming and going from his driveway almost daily. A guy in a plumbing van. Then another labeled Fast Fence Solutions. And a third one, an unmarked white pickup that stayed parked overnight. That one made me nervous. I started jotting down license plates just in case. Then one morning, I stepped outside and saw a chain running across the shared fence. It was looped through one of my garden gates.
Locked.
My gate. My side. I cut it with bolt cutters and walked straight to his front door. He answered, smirking like he'd been waiting. "You locked my gate," I said. "It's a shared fence," he said. "Wasn't trying to bother you. Just some stuff I don't want people getting into. That gate's fully on my property. You don't touch it." He shrugged.
"All right, man.
Chill out." I didn't answer. I just turned around and walked off. That same day, I called the city again. Asked if there were any open permits or registered workers at his address. Nothing. No inspection scheduled. No demolition planned. But those workers? They were back the next morning. This time, I stayed home and watched. They were digging in his backyard. Not near the deck. Near the back fence. One of them brought in rebar and poured concrete. I walked over to the property line, looked him straight in the eye, and said, "You pull a permit for that?" He looked up from the wet cement and said, "Talk to the boss." I did. I called the city again. Turns out Rick was trying to build a shed. A big one. 20 by 15 feet, with electricity. Right up against the fence line. No permit. No plan filed. Nothing. So I filed again. That made it official. 2 violations on record.
The deck.
The illegal construction. Repeat offenses. This time the inspector showed up with a camera crew, part of a local enforcement spotlight for code abuse. They interviewed neighbors. Took photos. Even asked me for a statement. And then something unexpected happened. One of the neighbors, an older woman who lives across the street, came over and handed me a folder. "He's been doing this for years," she said. "Different neighborhoods. Buys cheap, builds illegal stuff, then flips it." I looked him up after he yelled at my grandson for walking on the sidewalk. Inside the folder, printed screenshots, old permit violations, and a notice from a suburb just 20 minutes away. Same story. I sent it all to the city. That folder changed everything. Up until then, I thought I was just dealing with a selfish neighbor. But now it looked more like a pattern. He wasn't new to this, he was just sloppy this time. Sloppy and unlucky. The city inspector called me a few days later. He said, "We're escalating this. The city attorney's involved now. Looks like he's done this before, lied on applications, sold properties mid-violation. They issued a stop work order, nailed it right to the fence facing his yard." I watched from my kitchen window as Rick stormed out, ripped the paper off, crumpled it, and threw it into the trash. That same week, I noticed something strange. Late at night, after 11 p.m., his backyard would light up. Bright lights, motionless for hours. I knew what that meant. He was working around the orders. Quiet construction. Illegal. So I set up a trail camera in my window. One of those hunting cams with night vision. Caught it all. Him out there with a contractor, digging, pouring, wiring something. Every time-stamped photo backed it up. I didn't take it to the city this time. I went straight to the news tip line. A week later, there was a small article on a local news site. Lakewood homeowner faces multiple violations for unauthorized construction. It included a blurry photo of Rick's backyard from a drone shot taken by a reporter. It was enough to get people's attention. And it got his. The next morning, I walked outside and found a large dead rat on my welcome mat. Just lying there. Not poisoned, not injured. Just placed there. Intact. I didn't flinch. I picked it up with gloves, tossed it in a trash bag, and wrote everything down. Time, date, even took pictures. Then I installed a second camera. This one visible. Rick saw it. Came out later that day and shouted across the fence, "You're seriously sick, man." I didn't respond. Within another week, his house went up on Zillow, this time listed by a discount agent. Asking way too much. The pictures were out of date. No shots of the deck. No mention of shed potential. He was trying to offload fast. But no one was biting. Buyers started showing up, seeing the construction notices, the tarp, the warning tape. Word had spread. A few even walked over and asked me directly. I didn't say much. Just handed them copies of the violations, which are public record. 3 deals fell through. He tried lowering the price. Then again. But nothing stuck. And now, the city has filed formal charges for code violations. If he doesn't comply within 30 days, they'll take it to court. He hasn't looked me in the eye since. The deck's half gone, the backyard's torn up, and his for sale sign is sun-bleached and crooked. Most days I don't see him at all, just his truck parked at odd angles, like even it wants out of there. I still rake leaves, even with the tree gone. Out of habit, I guess. Sometimes I wonder if he ever thinks about what started all this. About how easy it would have been to knock on my door, say one honest sentence, and leave the damn tree alone. But I know he won't. Guys like that don't. And the part that sticks with me the most, what I still can't shake, is how fast some people will burn everything down just to feel like they won.